Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam amma ba'd. Ahabati fillah, question was asked, Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh wa ahsanallah ilaykum. A sister wants to know how much financial support she's entitled to for her child if she and her husband have decided to separate but stay legally Islamically married. She will cover her own finances but wants to know what a reasonable amount is for the child on a monthly basis to cover living accommodations, food, clothing, toys for the child, activities here and there. They have also decided to homeschool the child, and the sister wants to know if she is entitled to extra funding from him, since homeschooling the child will limit the time she can dedicate to earning and working. So there's some complexities in this question, but the first thing, when it comes to financial support after divorce, because being separated, I don't understand this concept of being separated and legally or and remaining legally or Islamically married. If what is meant here that the husband is traveling or he's going to live in one city, he has another wife, or whatever the case may be, he lives in one city and she lives in another city, then they're legally married Islamically, and he's responsible for the nafaqah. Very simple, unless she gives up those rights, but the child is always he's responsible for. Secondly, if this is some sort of new type of arrangement, I don't really know what to say in regards to that. But if they divorce, as is mentioned, she will cover her own finances, but wants to know what a reasonable amount is for the child on a monthly basis. That's an impossible question to answer without calculation, without research. So basically, these things go back to the custom of the people. If you were to ask one of the scholars in Saudi Arabia, and they were a scholar in Riyadh, or they were a scholar in Hail, or they were in Medina or in Mecca, the living cost of living is different in each of those places, and the circumstances for each of those individuals is different. So basically, when it comes to determining the nafaka, we're just going to assume that this couple or these individuals are divorced, that the husband's no longer responsible for the wife. If they're divorced, then, and once it's a final divorce, he's no longer responsible for providing for her, but the child is always he's always responsible, and he'll be responsible for that child in totality. So if you live in Seattle, Washington, or you live in New Mexico, the cost of living is quite different. Albuquerque, New Mexico to Seattle, Washington, radically different, financially. So that would be determined on, that would be dependent upon the place that you live and you reside in. So, for example, a child in Seattle is going to need more nafaka than a child, maybe it's a child, they were married in Morocco and they live in Morocco. It's going to be quite different than a child overseas in Morocco. The nafaka, the amount of what you will be spending in Seattle, Washington, very expensive place, compared to Casa Dar al Bayda, the capital of, or the, no, I think it's the capital, or is it Rabat? Rabat is the capital. Anyway, in Morocco. So the cost of living is going to be radically different. So that is what will determine. So basically, if they're divorced and it takes, the child needs new clothes, well, the father has to buy new clothes as long as he's able to do so. The child needs, a certain amount because of the shelter and this and that and the other, and food. So that would be determined, but he's not responsible for the wife. And the homeschooling issue. So although there's immense amount of khair in this, if the woman, I'm assuming, is able to do that and fulfill that responsibility or whatever, as far as the compensation, if they are divorced and then there's an expectation, of course he's responsible for those school supplies, and if she is giving up her opportunity to work because she needs to make she needs to make ends meet, then they would have to negotiate that as well, some sort of compensation for that because she is chosen, because they have agreed to homeschooling. But if he says, I want you to homeschool, and she's like, no, I have to work and live, then for sure he's got to take care of her financial, support her financially, so that way they can, because this is in accordance with his order. So if they have that agreement, they have to agree on those finances and those terms. But there is nothing stipulated specifically as an amount or anything in the Shara. Those things you have to determine and kind of calculate and just have an idea. Oh, she's living in Morocco. And one child, she needs $200 a month, or she needs $500 a month, or she needs, whatever, for the child. Oh, and she's going to homeschool. She's going to not work. Okay, she needs such and such, 500, 600, 1,000, whatever. Those things you will have to determine by dependent upon the place where they're residing, whether this is a divorce or not. All of those calculations need to be considered. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Almighty, to accept our good and forgive our evil. Anything I said correct was from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anything I said that was incorrect from myself and the shaitan. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad.